Ready to begin. We'll now begin our program. Welcome to the Naperville Leadership Forum, produced as a benefit for the Chippewa District of the Three Fires Council, Boy Scouts of America. My name is Richard Tatera, and I am co-chair of this event. We have planned this event as a replacement for an in-person breakfast event and look forward to the future when we can meet again in person. Meanwhile, we are maintaining social distancing by using the Zoom platform for this webinar, and it is being recorded. All attendee lines will be muted throughout the broadcast. Attendees will have the opportunity to submit questions to the panel by using the question and answer tool found on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen. So use the Q&A tool, please. If time permits, we'll take a few of these questions. Also, we will not be monitoring the chat line during this session. And finally, from time to time, we're going to be asking the audience some poll questions. I would now like to thank our sponsors who have generously provided donations enabling the production of this event. Intention Financial Partners, Dealer Inspire, who has enabled us to use their webinar capabilities, Edward Jones, and Comcast. Thank you. I now introduce event co-chair Jim Berner to lead us in the opening ceremony. Jim.
Thank you, Rich. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. I now invite Star Scout Katie Bessie to recite the Scout Oath. Katie?
On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God, my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Thank you, Katie. I now invite Life Scout Austin Francoeur to recite the Scout law.
A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. 2.
Thank you, Austin. Now I'd like to introduce Jeff Gross, our co-chair.
Thank you, Jim. It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists today. Our first panelist is a lifelong resident of Naperville, was a Cub Scout, and currently serves as the mayor of the city of Naperville, Steve Cherico. We're grateful to have you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to add that your State of the City address you gave this past Monday was a nice adaptation to that annual chamber event.
Thanks, Jeff. It's great to be here this morning.
Yeah, good to have you. All right, next we have the founder and CEO of Dealer Inspire, a Naperville-based technology firm specializing in software as a service and digital marketing, with over 4,000 clients and nearly all the major automotive brands in the United States and Canada. He too has a scouting background. So Joe Chura, thank you for joining us and supporting and producing this broadcast.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, everyone.
All right. Next, we have a runner, a public speaker, the former president and CEO of the Naperville Chamber of Commerce, who was the first woman leader in the Chamber's 112-year history. She's currently the director of the LEADS program, which is an acronym that stands for Leadership, Empowerment, Action, Development, and Service at the Benedictine University. Nikki Anderson. Thank you for joining us, Nikki.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Looking forward to today's conversation.
I am too. And next, we have a Southern gentleman who started his lifelong scouting career as an Eagle Scout in Florida, and he can tell many tales of gators and other critters. He pit stopped in Louisville for 20 years, where he led the BSA Lincoln Heritage Council before joining us a couple of years ago up north. He currently serves as a CEO of the Three Fires Council, Boy Scouts of America. Clint Sharp. Thanks for joining us, Clint.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit of his drawl. Anyways. And finally, we have 2 young adults from our Naperville community with us to represent our scouting youth. Katie Bessie is a freshman at Wabansia High School, and she is a Star Scout at Troop 1505 that's chartered at the Knox Presbyterian Church in Naperville. That troop is led by Scoutmaster Paige Samdahl. Good morning, Katie.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you.
And finally, we have Austin Francoeur, who is a senior at Naperville North High School and is a Life Scout at Troop 510, chartered by St. Raphael Catholic Church in Naperville. That troop is led by Scoutmaster Scott McConnell. Welcome, Austin.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's a little bit early for you youth, but then again, you're in high school, and I think as I was talking with Katie earlier, you would have already been on the bus. So, all right, anyways, to kick things off, I'd like to ask Clint Sharp to say a few words about why we're having this event and what and who is the Three Fires Council.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you again. Mayor, Joe, Nikki, thank you for joining our panel this morning and leading our discussion. And special thanks to our committee, Jim Berner, Rich Atura, Jeff Gross. Appreciate you all putting together. And to our young people joining this morning, Katie, Austin, it's good to see your faces. Thank you so much for joining us. The Three Fires Council serves DuPage, Kane, Kendall, DeKalb County. We have about 13,000 young people in our programs, about 5,000 volunteers, and about 400 different scout groups. We manage 2 camp properties, Camp Big Timber in South Elgin and Camp Freeland Leslie up in Oxford, Wisconsin. And we provide service and support to all these facilities, all these members, all these volunteers through our annual operating budget of about $3.8 million. And in the midst of this pandemic is our annual fundraising campaign to support those operations. So I appreciate you all joining us this morning to hear from our community leaders about how our community and leadership is adapting to the current environments we have. And would ask that each of you consider during the time this morning to make a gift to the Boy Scouts of America, the Three Fires Council. At our page, we have a give. The web address is right up there, threefirescouncil.org. Or you can text the word leadership to the number on the screen, 844-615-4269, and make a pledge of support to help our local programs. All dollars given locally stay locally. On our community campaign for DuPage County, we're looking to raise an additional $63,000 before the end of the summer, and we're hoping that this morning would be a good kickoff to that. So please consider making a gift to support our local Scouts and Scouting program. Whether you are a Scout or not, I think some of the impact that Scouting has in our community is pretty important to understand. Young people in our program learn the Scout Oath and Scout Law, and we think those values are so important to developing future leaders and active citizens. We know kids that are involved in Scouts become active citizens. They become future leaders, whether that's becoming a future mayor or business owner, or just an engaged parent and a great employee. Kids that are in Scouting learn self-reliance, they learn interdependence, and they learn cooperation, they learn problem solving, these higher executive decision-making skills that are so important to our upcoming workforce. They also gain a lot about social emotional health and social emotional learning through our program. Kids that, young people that work with each other, form friendships in small groups, experience obstacles together, learn how to fail without being fatal. Scouting is such an important place to learn how to try and do things, do it wrong, figure out what went wrong, and try it again. There are too many environments for young people today where they're taught the test and they're not allowed to fail. And I think Scouting is so important to provide that experience for young people so they can develop grit and overcome obstacles in their future life. You know, we've dealing with some local issues here as well. We'll talk a bit more during our panel about how we've adapted our program in this environment to make sure we're keeping young people engaged and keeping young people safe, and how we're planning to conduct our annual summer programs as well. And we've delayed our summer programming in response to the governor's Restore Illinois plan. And we're hoping to launch our day camp program for Cub Scouts in July and our summer camp program for Scouts BSA also in July, and do it in a way that is safe and effective and responsible. So we're really excited that we will have an opportunity for summer programs and get our kids, young people out to camp and experience nature and get in front of their friends again and do it in a safe and responsible way. Your dollars today will help us with outreach, scholarship, training, and facilities. So we appreciate your gifts this morning. And if you ever have questions about how your gift is being put to work here in our local community, please reach out to me anytime. We'd be glad to talk about it. I do want to mention real quickly, one of our major objectives over the next several years is about our membership. Serving 13,000 young people in our community is a pretty impressive number. We've evaluated and kind of dissected our membership and demographics. We've identified an area that we're not doing so well in. The Hispanic community across our 4 counties represents about 20% of all the young people we serve. And when we look at our membership, only about 5% of our membership a couple of years ago was Hispanic. So our board made the decision to make sure that our membership reflects the community we serve and really take a significant action in that area. So in the last couple of years, we've hired 3 bilingual, bicultural staff members to make sure we're reaching out to the Hispanic community. And last year alone, we grew our Hispanic membership by another 3%. So we're really making some inroads there, and we're hoping to make sure that our membership does reflect the community we serve through Scouts like Katie as well. In 2018, the Boy Scouts of America opened membership to Cub Scouting to young ladies. And currently, about half of our Cub Scout packs, 100 of our Cub Scout packs currently serve the entire family, boys and girls. And in 2019, we opened up our Scouts BSA program to boys and girls. And Katie is a member of a Scouts BSA troop. And currently we have almost 20 troops for girls in our community, serving just under 200 young people. And we're excited about that. In 2020, and Katie's one of those, looking like she's heading that way at a Star Scout. 2020 will be the first year that a young lady will have an opportunity to earn the rank of Eagle Scout. So Austin, you got someone tracking you down there. You know, hope you get that Eagle Service project done real soon. So again, thank you all this morning for your time. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your generosity.
All right, thanks, Clint. That's a great introduction. So, and let me start. You know, the challenges imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic has affected everyone in many different ways. For example, this event was originally scheduled as a breakfast at the Naperville Country Club back on March 24th. In early March, we had to adapt our timing and thinking, hey, by late May, everything will be good, hoping we could still meet in person. And then we realized, well, that's not going to happen. So we adapted again to this online event. And that's one thing that Scouts has taught me is as Clint was saying, a lot of times things don't go exactly as you planned the first time. So you are resilient and you adapt and move forward. And I think that's a great trait that we can teach our youth. So anyways, the goal of this roundtable forum today is to explore how these challenges have stretched us as leaders in the community, both public and private. So panelists, it's time to get you on the hook here. So I first want to start this roundtable forum with your personal impact, and then we'll go into probing how the professional side has gone. So starting with Mayor Cherico, Steve, how has this shelter-in-place mandated your daily activities from early March to now late May? What is one activity you miss most?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, thanks again for having me. Yeah, everything about my world, and I think probably many of you, all of our world has changed in the last few months. I still go to work every day because the city doesn't stop working, but it's very, very different now than it was before. And you do miss certain parts about my life that I relied upon. And I think probably the most important one, or the thing I miss the most, is the gatherings. You know, the gatherings with family and friends. That is something that you do, and you sort of take it for granted that we're, as Americans, able to gather when we want to and enjoy company and social activities. And that's a part of my life that maybe you don't, for the first week or two, maybe appreciate how important that is to each of us. But when you don't get to do it for a period of time, like a month or two, it certainly has an emotional and a psychological impact on us, I think. And so trying to learn to sort of deal with that has been something that you have to create that void with other things. Some people, I think, have done a great job of getting in shape. I have not. But I have learned to go like on more walks and things with our dogs and those types of activities, and trying to, find a healthy exercise or a healthy activity to take up that time.
Awesome. Well, maybe you can take up bicycling like a lot of us have here and bike to work.
Yeah.
Let's throw on the personal side. Let's throw that over to Joe. Joe, what's one personal activity that you missed?
Well, first off, I'd love to bike more, but this weather has not been very great lately. Although yesterday was pretty good. So thanks again for having me. To echo the mayor's comments, I would say, being social, being around people, for me, it's like not being able to enjoy these great Naperville restaurants, my office in Naperville, being able to talk to people in person. Many times I would just yell from my office someone's name. That just can't happen through a computer. Obviously that would be a bit odd, but it's really shown me how much we take for granted regarding freedoms, right? Like all of a sudden, one day we can do everything, including fly and travel, and then almost feels like the very next day that's taken away from us. And you're kind of in this predicament where you're locked in your home. Now, I'm very blessed to have a nice home. I have great kids, a great wife, but at the same time, you're kind of locked here, right? But on the flip side, I look at this and I've kind of doubled down on cooking skills and trying to make this into a positive growing experience, including working out every day and doubling down on that too. Just because I do want to come out of this with something to show for it. But really the kind of biggest thing is just that social interaction that seemed to be taken away so quick because there's no real warning sign for it.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, when the mayor was talking earlier, I remember seeing him at one of the VFW fish fries in early March, and then next thing you know, all that had to shut down. So, but Joe, I applaud that you're doing some personal development here. I think that's a great message for everyone.
Joe is one of those. Joe is one of those ones that I was talking about. Oh, shape.
Yep. Yes, I think we need some more Facebook posts from you, Joe, to inspire us. So, all right, let's move on to let's move on to Nikki and find out what's one personal activity that you're missing here.
I think we're all kind of on the same page here, that, we miss the gatherings, we miss the great restaurants, although you can pick up, but I think what Joe was alluding to too is, and what I've discovered is that I've become acutely aware on how much I took for granted. We are so fortunate. We have so much at the snap of our fingers. We can do anything we want to do. And I think this has really given us a new appreciation for all that we have. I've been a runner, as you mentioned, so I'm still running. But the one thing that I've done is I've made a commitment to do something every single day. So I've been walking and listening to Audible, and I do every other book. One's a professional or business, like nonfiction, and then one is a fiction. And so for an hour every day, I listen to my book, and that inspires me. So that's been something that I didn't do before. I just go out for a run or a walk, but now there's intention there. And like you, Joe, cooking up a storm and enjoying that. So, but I miss the gatherings too, and that's just normal. We're wired that way to interact, get that oxytocin that we need, right, to lift ourselves up. So that's what just not taking things for granted. I have a renewed perspective.
Yeah, so true. I mean, we are so interconnected and whatnot. So, all right, we'll wrap up here with, Clint, we'll give you an opportunity. What's your thoughts on what your daily?
I'm going to mention real quickly that I think Nikki said something there pretty profound and about how we're wired as people. There's a great research paper out there. You can find it on the web. It's called Hardwired to Connect, and it talks about authoritative communities and provide, that people, we look and crave for that connection with each other and for the greater world. And through our scouting programs, our scout troops and our Cub Scout packs, these are what we call authoritative communities. They are places where we create boundaries and expectations, interaction, and learning. And these are what people crave, kind of hardwired into our DNA. And it really makes sense. We've tried to adapt our programs a little bit to the current environment. We've created a plethora of resources through our webpage for our volunteers, for online resources to keep young people engaged. About 80% of our membership is currently involved in some type of scout-related online learning, whether it be merit badge classes or den meetings or troop meetings or service projects, where we're connecting with each other in a way just like this to get out and do things. We've had literally thousands of scouts over the last couple of weekends out walking their nature trails and parks and neighborhoods, picking up trash just to make sure the place is a little bit cleaner for the next person behind them. So we're really excited about that. We've had, since March, we've had over 3,000 merit badges earned by scouts through volunteers, conducting workshops with young people online and engaging and connecting with them. So we're really excited about our ability to pivot pretty quickly and keep program going. Starting in about 2 weeks, we'll be launching what we're going to call Backyard Scouting. And it is going to be a home delivered resource kit to our Cub Scout families. So those families that may have some health issues that may preclude them from going to a face-to-face day camp this summer and being around others, those families will have an opportunity to do Cub Scout day camp in their own backyard. So we've got a team of volunteers working on that and developing that, and families will be able to preview that, and that'll launch 1st of June.
Oh, great. Very nice adaptation there. And I know the Scout Council held a virtual camp out last weekend, and there was a lot of positive feedback and interaction on Facebook from the many hundreds of people I saw out there. So,
Jeff, we had over 1,500 people attend our virtual camporee last weekend, pitching tents in their backyard. We even had a scout troop from New Zealand, Japan, and Guam attend with us.
How fun. And I know some people who had moved away joined us too from different states. So, all right, we're just a little bit behind, but I want to give some time just to Katie and Austin to give us just what's one daily activity they're missing, and then we'll move on to some leadership questions. Katie, we'll go with you first. What's one thing real quick?
Hi, well, obviously as a student, I'm in school, and that's probably one of the things I miss the most. Because as you guys were saying earlier, it's just having a stricter schedule and going from class to class, but being around students my age, because right now I'm with my family and I love them and it's great having time with them, but my little sister and my parents are not exactly my age. So being around students my age and having just a schedule and having your mind going constantly is just really nice. And I kind of miss the schedule of it, kind of. But yeah, that's probably what I miss the most. And then obviously scouts. It's kind of sad having to see all my scouts on the screen, but it's still fun.
Yeah, well, thanks. And Austin, finally with you, what's your one thing you're missing from your daily activity?
The one thing that I feel like I missed the most was with me being a senior in high school, missing all of those final celebrations.
Yeah, no, so true. Yeah, we've seen so much in the news where proms and graduations have adapted and whatnot. So I feel really sorry for you. However, I can tell you, you will survive. I didn't go to my own prom. A few years down the road, no big deal. You'll be off to bigger and better adventures. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing everything. There were some really profound thoughts there. But now I'd like to move on to the professional side. So Steve, perhaps nobody has faced greater leadership challenges over the past few months than people leading our government institutions. How has the pandemic crisis caused you to adapt your leadership style?
Yeah, we've heard the term essential a lot in the last few months, essential businesses and things like that, essential services. And, one of the things that you realize in an emergency situation is the importance of government services, critical core services, public safety, public transportation, our electric and water utilities, making sure that they're safe and dependable, reliable services. All the things that we do as a city, people rely upon every day, not just for convenience, but for their health and safety. And so we didn't have a day off. When the stay-at-home order took place, we were preparing for that for weeks, trying to make sure that we could deliver all of those services to people without fail. And so it was the first thing as a leader that I needed to and wanted to do is make sure that I could provide the comfort and confidence to our employees to let them know that we're going to create processes and protocols to make sure that they could do their job safely, because first and foremost, they needed to be able to come to work and know that they're going to be safe so that they could provide services to our residents. And then the second thing was to make sure that our residents had confidence in that calm, knowing that their government was going to continue to be functioning properly through all of this. And so those were two things that I've never had to really think about much before. as a leader of our city, I've never really had to worry about convincing people that we're going to be here for you, and we're going to be, if you call 911, you can expect someone's going to show up. And so, through all that, you're trying to, of course, we have to manage our family and our business, and because it's a frightening time when this all happens. And so you have to be able to step away from all that and make sure people know that they have confidence that our city leaders are going to be delivering what people really depend upon just to live their lives. And so that was a very different position I took on, especially very early on, is to make sure that, especially with the employees, that they were confident that we were going to provide them an environment that they could continue to function in a safe way. So it's been a very, very different experience for me.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. Yes, I can imagine the burden you and responsibility you felt providing that, but thank you for your leadership in that. And I will just tell you that I had full confidence in the city. I really laughed when I saw everyone going to Costco and buying bottles and cases of water. I'm like, why? I know the city has done a good job with their utilities, and I'm not fearful that I'm going to lose water or electricity. So, all right. So let's move on to Joe. Let's take the same question from a business community viewpoint. Joe, with people not being able to come into the office and you're doing more work from home, as you alluded to even earlier, how has that current situation caused you to adapt your leadership at Dealer Inspire?
Well, it's impacted our business pretty significantly. We were, over the last 5 to 7 years, in fact, since the history of the inception of the company, we've had year-over-year growth of about 30%. And we still maintain that growth, but now all of a sudden we're faced with some of our clientele being closed and being shut down. So that forced us, for the first time in our history, to furlough some workers. And that was really, really tough for our organization. So that leads into people worrying about their jobs. So for the first time ever, I feel our employees, much like people didn't know if they were going to have water or call for services if someone would show up, I had people that were worried about their paychecks. So communication became like the #1 thing. So we went from having monthly all-team meetings to weekly team meetings. And it really also caused our clients to think about their businesses differently and to do more online. Whereas some of our clients had tools and technology to be able to sell cars online, because I do a lot in the automotive space. They weren't pushing that because business as usual was just fine. So this kind of forced them to leapfrog, and more has changed in the last 90 days than I think in the last 5 years. So that has been pretty significant. But probably the biggest change for us as a business is we have 650 employees. 50% of those work outside of the office, so across 40 different states. And we would basically have these team meetings, and we would have them in the office, and we would live stream them to these remote employees. So it was almost like there was 2 classes of people in our organization. And what this did is it really forced us to put everyone on the same level playing field, and the meetings and the efficiencies and the ability to bring people in from across the country very quickly has significantly changed. And we are really focused on having better meetings with outcomes that we can measure. And now people don't feel like they're a distant part of those. They don't feel like, hey, the core company is in the office, but the people working out of their home in Alaska, we have an employee there, feels completely different, right? Because sometimes the streaming wouldn't work, or there'd be technology issues. We would celebrate, in certain ways in the office, and they just felt like they weren't a part of it. So I think this is going to have a lasting impact. Our meetings will never be the same. We're never going back. And I think it's going to be really positive.
Great insights. And yes, I've experienced that too in my professional career, how meetings have become more intentful, and it has evened the playing field for remote employees versus people in the office. So, okay. So Nikki, let's go on to your role at Benedictine. It just started in January of 2020. And with being so new there, what are some of the challenges and adaptations you've had to make?
Yeah, the theme here obviously is adapting, the ability to adapt, right? And so that's really what I've had to do. I'm somewhat of an island. I came into the university with the goal of developing a co-curricular undergraduate program for leadership program for women. And this spring, I was going to begin my fundraising. Well, obviously now is not the time. And I'm home, meetings, I can do meetings, but it's a different environment. So what this has allowed me to do is to really double down on research on leadership. And we have really, this crisis, if you will, has put a microscope, if you will, on leadership. I've never read more about leadership than now. So it's allowed me to not only do the research, but then I reach out and contact either the person who wrote it or the person who's featured. And so I've been able to make these connections with leaders, and the hope is to start doing things similar to what you're doing here. And that is having conversations with leaders around the world to talk about, not only how to lead in times of crisis, but what are we learning leading during times of crisis that we forget when everything's okay, right? Because
Yes.
I think leadership should be consistent, and we shouldn't all of a sudden go, oh gosh, what skills do I need now? Those skills should always be part of it. It's just that sometimes you need to amp it up. So I think what I've really had the privilege of learning through meeting all these people that probably I wouldn't have otherwise is the power of consistency in leadership and that adaptation. And so I've had to adapt. I'm helping out in other ways with the university too. So it's been really fun, interesting, and a challenge, which I love.
Great insights, everyone. Thanks so much. And Clint, we'll just finish up with you real quick on, I know you talked a little bit about the impact. Anything else you want to add that you haven't talked about before? Or?
Yeah, the leadership skill I think that we've had to help hone the most is empathy. Realizing that we serve a very diverse community. And I saw something a few weeks ago, and that's really helped kind of shape my thinking a little bit. Someone had mentioned that we're all in this boat together. And maybe the analogy is different, in that we're all in the storm together, but we're all in different boats. People are enduring the current situation in different ways. There are some people who are working and still getting a paycheck. Some have been furloughed, laid off. Some have been healthy. Some have gotten ill. Some may have greater anxiety because of possible comorbidities. We're all facing this thing a little bit differently and experiencing this a little bit differently. So helping our staff and our volunteers and our young people develop more empathy to how other people are experiencing this thing is an important part of a leadership growth and component as well. We've adapted the way we deliver our leadership support to our volunteers, virtual monthly roundtable meetings with, as Joe discussed, having measurable outcomes. Are we really hitting the content and material needed to help our volunteers continue to support young people? Our national program of youth protection, our child abuse prevention and recognition programs, we've also had a built-in safety mechanism for online digital meetings as well. So we've really been able to reinforce that. Making sure that when we do meetings like this, that we use those platforms in a responsible way with two deep leadership, parental engagements, and no one-off, one-on-one conversations and digital platforms with young people. So enforcing those rules and making sure our volunteers know them, aware of them, providing to young people our cyber chip and cyber safety programs as well, anti-bullying programs. So we extend our bullying programs into the cyber world as well. And we've had to adjust our operating budget a little bit as well. We've had to look at the way we plan things and adjust the way we're planning on doing things in the future. And we've already allocated an additional $15,000 in health and safety supplies for our annual budget that was unplanned for this year, whether it be no-touch thermal thermometers for our camping camp programs and facilities, buffs, face mask gaiters, hand sanitizers, cleaning solutions, everything we'll need to do camp programs and provide a safe environment for young people when we get to camp this summer. So it really does force you to kind of look at business as usual and think, how do we need to recalculate this and redo this, and then maybe allocate some resources differently. But more importantly, I think the empathy aspect of it, and then just staying in tune with people and listening to people and hearing how they're experiencing this and how we can adjust our message and our service and our support to meet people where they are.
Okay, Yeah, thanks for that extra information. Yeah, and I know I've been on some of those communications of how we're trying to adapt, not trying, how we are adapting to put on a summer program. And I really am pleased with the amount of detail and medical information is being put into that effort. So, okay. So as was mentioned earlier, this is a fundraiser for the Scouts. So I want to remind everyone, please visit our website to make a donation at www.givepfc.org or text leadership at 844-615-4269. Okay, and then let's go on to Katie and Austin here. Talk a little bit more about some of your school stuff. So, perhaps there's no greater time or memories in personal growth than your high school years. So, Austin, do you want to say any more words about the greatest challenge you saw in your school life here?
Yes, my biggest challenge with school and ending it out like that was having a hard time sticking to a schedule. Like the only time that I was given every day was I had to have my attendance in by 2 o'clock.
Oh, you could sleep in then.
Yes. And that was part of the issues. I would end up procrastinating and stuff. And it just made it hard to do all my work when I wasn't set to a schedule every day.
Yeah, I can understand that. And Katie, how about you? What have you had to change here, or your challenge?
Very similar to what he said is we didn't even have any attendance schedule, so we really are just free for all pretty much. But even before the pandemic, staying on task and staying motivated for homework and stuff, even just homework after school, I would have issues with. I'm a major procrastinator, and so I was having major challenge with that even then. And now that pretty much everything is homework, that's not doing too great on that. So my mom's having to make sure to shove me and keep me in a schedule pretty much. And so that's probably one of my biggest things, just lack of motivation, because we're not in a classroom environment. That's where I thrive and where a lot of students thrive, because when we're surrounded by kids, and honestly, as we all know, the only reason people usually like school is seeing your friends and seeing other kids and just interacting. And without being able to raise our hands and participate in class, and discussions in groups, it's just kind of lacking in just any motivation. So yeah, that's probably my biggest issue.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. Yes. I'm sure your teachers will appreciate that comment that you just want to go there for your friends. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next set of questions here. So looking to the future, as we anticipate the end of this stay-at-home order and our journey to this new normal, what skills do you think we're going to be needed in our leaders of our businesses? So, Joe, well, let's let you go first there. What new skills or aspects do you want to share?
Yeah, I think the theme is flexibility, right? Out of the box thinking. But there's a few principles that I've been thinking about that can guide everyone through. So number one is there's always a reason not to do something. There always is, right? We can think of it today. There's always a reason not to work out, not to read, not to better ourselves, not to do whatever. This is a great example. It would be easy not to have this meeting, right? There was a really valid reason for that. COVID, we couldn't have it in person, but we figured out a way how to make it happen. So there's not an excuse either. Secondly, there's no sacred cows. So embrace the fact that things will change. Things are always going to change. And no matter what you did in the past, it doesn't mean it has to be what you do in the future. A lot of this is about your ego, right? Like I've created project management systems and tools that worked for us 5 years ago. They might not work today. So we need to really embrace that change happens and there's no sacred cows. Number three, this is important, changing your mindset. So an example of this is when I talk to people or when anyone asks someone a question, typically, what do they say? Hey, I've been really busy lately, right? Who doesn't say that? Who doesn't respond to that? Everyone's busy. So now in my calendar, instead of putting busy, when I time block things, I put active. I've been very active lately, because just those words changes your mindset and how you approach things. And I've seen a fundamental shift with my team managing their time better and thinking positively versus negatively. So changing active to busy is a hugely important thing as well.
Wow, great insights here. Nikki, I hope you're taking notes, because I think there's some great aspects coming here. Yeah, so Nikki, since I called on you just now, as an educator, you talked a little bit about some of the other new skills you're doing. Anything else you want to share on that front?
Yeah, I think regardless of the industry that we're in, that leaders need to be mindful about not falling into the idea of a new normal. Kind of what Joe said, the allure of a new normal gives us the illusion of certainty. And I think one of the things that we're learning is nothing is certain, right? The only thing that we have control over is ourselves, right? And how we respond. So as we move into the next phase, I think we need to really listen closely to what others are doing and kind of stay that step ahead. I think collaboration, which we're learning here, I'm collaborating more now with my team at Benedictine than I was before this happened. We get together and with that collaboration comes innovation, right? So that's really an important thing. And finally, in my world of higher education, the institution that I work for, I never worried because I trust our leaders. So trust. Leading with transparency and empathy, as you said, Clint, and authenticity. People are moving forward cautiously, and they need to trust their leaders. And if they can trust their leaders, then they move forward with confidence. Unfortunately, I work for someone that I trust implicitly, and that has really made the idea of adapting and being flexible so much easier because I knew it was for a purpose.
Yeah, that's an awesome insight there too about the trustworthiness of it. And I might point out that the first point of our Scout Law is to be trustworthy. So I think that's a great lesson that we can teach everyone. So Joe, Steve, let's move on to you from a government viewpoint. What's some of the skills you think we're going to need in this new normal, if I misappropriate that term?
Yeah, I think what I found so fascinating about this experience is that we're always trying to be innovative as organizations that we are involved with, especially as leaders. But sometimes it's not easy to get people to buy in to change. Oftentimes, most of the time, it's not easy to get people to buy into change. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, when you're in a situation like a crisis that we are experiencing now, everything changed, and everybody bought in. And what we found is that so many of the new things that we've put into place in terms of efficiencies, safety protocols, just innovative ideas to work smarter and better, more efficiently. So many of those things will remain when COVID is in our rearview mirror, because we were forced to do better. And so I think the lesson for people is that going forward, we shouldn't have to rely on a crisis to get us into a mindset that we can do better and we can improve. And so that's been a very valuable lesson, I think, because so many things that we are now doing are just more efficient than how we were working before. And we're never going back. And
yeah.
We're just not going back. And so this has been something that, if there's a silver lining in this horrible situation that we have found ourselves in, it's that everybody has been forced to bring out their best, to really think in bigger, broader terms, so that we can really just get through this.
Yeah, that's another great insight. In fact, one of my passions is environmental sustainability, as you know. And seeing pictures from overseas, like in India or China, where the shutdown has caused traffic to basically stop, and now people can see the blue sky, or see, be in a city and see the Himalayas from 100 miles away, and they've never seen that as a person before. I'm wondering how much this is going to give them the ability and I can't even think of the right word, but the motivation to say, hey, climate change or changing the way we consume energy and pollute our environment doesn't have to be a 50-year plan. Maybe we can do this in 1 or 2 years or whatever. But
Yeah, we've sort of given Mother Nature a little break here, haven't we?
yeah, that's
Although you
what
wouldn't know with the rainstorm we just had.
yeah. Well, yeah, 3 years and the 3 wettest Mays. So maybe that is another new normal to beat that phrase to death.
Yeah.
So let's see. I think it's time to do our Channel 11 reminder, that this is a benefit for Scouts. So Rich, if you want to throw up that slide again, make a donation, support our great program. And you can do a couple different ways. You can go to our website, givetfc.org, or text leadership to the number on your screen there. All right, let's move on. Clint, you talked about it a little bit before that we're communicating, via electronic means. Just want to go back and see if you want to add anything more on to the aspect of what the Scouting organization does to give guidance to safety and welfare of our youth with communicating electronically.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. We've talked with our adult leaders and continue to share resources with them about providing formats like this to young people where they're engaging, planning, problem solving, learning, maintaining what we call a 2-deep environment with a registered, screened, background checked volunteer and a parent adult over the age of 21. So we make sure that all of our programs are conducted in that 2-deep environment to make sure that our scouting programs are held out in the open. We talk about leadership skills and the way we've changed. I grew up in a military family background, lived in 12 cities before I graduated high school. And, my dad being a career Navy man, we learned as kids the term MARF, M-A-R-F, maintain absolute rigid flexibility. And when I apply that to today's environment, it really means mission versus methods. We are absolutely true to our mission, and that is instilling the values of the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Our methods may change over time, and they should adapt to new environments and to new conditions and to new, as society evolves and changes, we should evolve our methods. And I think this environment has helped us really, really hone in on the fact that we can do things differently and still instill the Scout Oath and Scout Law in young people and help them develop ethical character leadership traits. So we're proud of our safety record and we're really, really proud of our volunteers today. Folks like Jim and Rich and Jeff and thousands of others that give selflessly of their time and find creative ways to be selfless with their time and their experience and their expertise to help young people grow. And Nikki, Mayor, Joe, thank you again for your time this morning as well to share your insights with our community here. And for those of you attending online, thank you for your generosity and support to the Boy Scouts to support Scouts like Katie and Austin and the 13,000 other young people in our program. So thank you very much for having me a part of this, and really appreciate it. If you have suggestions, ideas about where you think scouting should be more vibrant, more present, more engaged, please shoot me an email, contact us through our council office. We'd be glad to reach out into more parts of our community and do more to support young people. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Clint. Okay, so I want to go back to our Scouts and gain some insights from there. So we've talked a little bit about the adapting to communication, and I know in our last 10 years or so, communication has changed quite a bit. So Katie, can you tell us a little bit about anything new methods you're communicating with your friends or your relatives? Any insights on where the future might be going? I'm used to telephone, and now there's, of course, the internet, and there's many different platforms. Anything new that we should be looking at?
There's many new things. Honestly, I think video chats like this exactly may become a little bit more prominent, especially because this is going through almost all aspects. It's going through school, it's going through Scouts. I'm on Zoom for Scouts for a lot a week, like hours a week. So I think that may become a new normal, maybe for merit badge counselors and for school. But I don't think there's any brand new things. I just think we'll probably do a little bit more internet communication through maybe videos or email a little bit more. And because, yeah, I'm not sure phones, we're already pretty prominent in that, but I definitely think just internet communication on video chats will definitely increase just rather than in person, because it's a little bit more convenient, and obviously right now we're getting a lot better at it. And yeah,
Very true. We're all getting, it was very awkward the first week or two, but now we're all getting much more used to the video chats and accepting whatever interesting background noises or pets are doing or fading in and out. So Austin, we'll go on to you real quick. Any insights from you there on communication challenges you experienced or anything new you want to share?
I found that the video conferences were the best thing for me when it came to communicating with people. I used it a lot while I was doing my Eagle Scout project and all of my merit badges I had left. I found it an amazing tool to be able to communicate with people.
Okay, thanks. That's great. So, all right. So we're rapidly coming to the close of our hour, and we've had some great discussions. So I'm going to basically give out one last set of questions and for everyone to respond to. So it is, how has this pandemic shaped your thinking of, and this will go to the adult panelists first. So you adults get your listening ears on. How has the pandemic shaped your thinking of preparing our youth to be more mature and productive contributors to government and business? So let's see, who wants to go first? Maybe we'll hit Nikki on that one, being a mother. So.
It was interesting when I considered that question. Obviously we're seeing a lot of change around our communities. People are losing jobs, as we've chatted about earlier. In some case, people have lost loved ones. And I think this has really forced some of the younger members of our community to have to stand up, pay attention, maybe even step in and support in ways that they never thought. I've also seen the amazing creativity and compassion from our students in the community and what they've done. And I think that this pandemic has created a greater awareness about the impact that our youth can have and does have in our society. And I don't think we really pay attention. The power and the voice and the action from our youth has never been more prevalent, in my humble opinion. So I think this event in our history is providing opportunities for our youth to become more involved and to feel like their voices really matter, because they do. When I look at the Scouts and how the program teaches them so much about life and leadership, I can't help but think about the power of Scouts and impact that these adults will have long after this passes. So I just think about if everybody had an opportunity to be part of Scouts, what a different world it would be, right?
Well, thank you for that support. Yes, I agree. I'm a lifelong Scout. Scouts was great to me as a youth, and that's why I'm still involved to give back. And and my sons are Eagle Scouts too. So, well, Joe, let's move on to you. What do you think about preparing our youth to be more productive contributors to business? What's some of this time here at the pandemic teaching us?
Before I answer that, I do want to give a huge shout out to all the parents, the mothers, the fathers that have dual jobs now. And just listening to my children above me, it reminds me of the work that, and how blessed I am that my wife isn't working right now, but many people are. Many of my employees are, and they're juggling 2 full-time jobs. And it is incredibly hard and frustrating. And I remember the first week, my wife was like breaking down. She's like, I don't think I can do this, because there was this huge, she became a teacher overnight, right? So I want to just give a huge shout out to all the parents that are teachers as well. And obviously this made us all appreciate teachers more. But at the same time, when you're a teacher and you have a full-time job, that I just don't know how people are doing it. So shout out to all the moms and dads out there that are going through that. The biggest thing here, and it's crazy when I think about it, and I think about my success in life, and my success in life can be boiled down to one word: adversity. I've experienced crazy things, but they made me grow always. And as a parent, I struggle with this because I constantly try and take adversity away from my children, right? I'm never going to let them experience some of the things I did, but I wonder what is that going to do in their life, and how will that change? I say that because COVID forced adversity on all of us in many different ways, from the mayor figuring out how to do things completely differently, answering questions that he never thought he would get, to teachers having to learn how to teach virtually overnight, to parents. It is incredible. And kids now, the biggest thing I see is the lack of social interaction that they look forward to and can release stress by going to soccer games and being in Boy Scouts and doing all these things that they can't do the same way today. So all of that is like adversity being thrust up upon us. But I think from that, there are going to be really good outcomes, because the outcome of most adverse things that have happened are very positive. So my biggest advice, though, because that's part of this too, is to play offense. Play offense. Going back to what I said earlier, getting that 1% better. Do something every day. Come up with a list of 3 or 4 things and just do them every day. And you're going to have incremental gains at the end of this. And you're going to be able to look back and say, hey, I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't for this period of time.
Absolutely. Great insight there. So finally, we'll wrap up here with Steve. What thoughts do you have on preparing our youth and what might come from this experience of the pandemic?
I've thought about this whole experience that we're going through, and it's such a defining moment in time to be living through a historic moment like this. And I think as the children who are experiencing this, I mean, you think back through our history of major events that people relate to as something that changed their life, whether it be World War I or II, or one of the 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, or these defining moments in our history that have impacted people forever. And this is one of those defining moments that especially our youth will remember, and it will guide them and change them in different ways. And what I hope and what I believe will happen is that they will recognize the importance of community and what it means to helping others to become better, or helping others to get through this. And so Naperville is very blessed because we have such an enormous safety net within our community in terms of social service organizations that help to fill the gap and help pick people up. There you go, loaves and fishes, Jeff, and help pick people up when they're down. And this is something that our youth has always been very good at. And one of the things that's great about the Scout program is that this is one of the platforms that they build a foundation on, and that is giving back to your community and being better citizens. And so this pandemic is again, it's brought about some things that have been very unpleasant for us, but on the bright side, or on the positive side, it has motivated people to do things and really focus their life on doing good things. And I think that that's going to be something that will have a really just a long-term effect on all of our society, but especially our youth. They will remember this as when they're, parents and grandparents, that, I was there during this pandemic, and this is something that has changed my life forever. The trajectory of lives has now been changed because of this defining moment.
Yeah, so true, and great insights. And we talk about the future and the hope and the perseverance aspect. And I want to share a little anecdote that I was able to learn early on when we talked about the stay-at-home orders. I'm fortunate to still have my father, who's 91, and I was talking to him about this, and it's like, wow, this is really unprecedented for us. Just this rapid shutdown and having this unknown disease come through our community and not know exactly how it's affecting us and who's going to get it and how they're going to be affected. And he goes, well, I lived through this myself. And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, you're not old enough to be in the 1918, Spanish flu time. But he says, no, polio. when I was a teenager, polio was still ravaging communities. And he had lost his best friend as a teenager to polio. Now, my dad wasn't personally affected, but I know growing up as a youth, I saw many men around my dad's age walking with limps or having other type of things. And it never all clicked together, but having this adult mind, and of course, with my wife's involvement in Rotary, which many of you are involved in too, that, you know, their efforts to, you know, eliminate polio in the world, you can see, once again, something from a diversity standpoint and people taking charge to make a positive out of it. And so I think that's a great message to everyone, not even our youth, is to, you know, move forward, look and adapt and go forward. So Clint, I feel like we should give you one last chance to say something before we wrap up here on this, and then maybe we'll give everyone just another 30 seconds or so to give their last piece of advice. So Clint, anything else more you want to say?
Joe, I think you said something that was amazing about adversity, and it reminded me of an experience. I took a group of scouts to Philmont Scout Ranch several summers ago. And these were kids, my son's scout group. We'd known each other since first grade. And the 12 of us, we went out to New Mexico to go climb a mountain, spend a week out in the back country. And we had a kid in our group, Tim. Tim looked like a linebacker or offensive lineman for the Chicago Bears since he was about third grade. You know, and he's about 6'6" and always, you know, dwarfed everyone else in our group. Great guy, great personality. Tim had one speed, and that speed was, we called it Timmy speed. There was no going fast. There was no going slow. There was just Timmy speed. And our crew elected Tim as our crew leader. And about midway, a little more midway through our experience out there in the backcountry, Tim actually got altitude sickness. We had gone from 9,000 feet elevation, crossed that 10,000 foot elevation plateau, and got altitude sickness one night. And we came very close to making a decision to have to come back down off the mountain. But he was able to kind of push through it. And the next morning was our ascent. We were going to go to our peak mountain experience to get to the top of the mountain, which was another 2,000 feet elevation climb for that day. And our group made the decision that we're either going to go together or not go together. But we weren't going to send some and not send the others. And Tim said, look, I got it. We may go a little slower, but we're going to go. And we pushed through it. We got to the top of the summit. We came back down, got in our campsite last night. And Tim said something pretty profound. He said, Mr. Sharp, I got great parents. My mom, dad, my sisters will do anything for me. And I've never been pushed for anything in my life. If things get hard, I can quit. There's no repercussions because I've got a great safety net at home. Today I learned I have a second gear I never knew was there. And I'll know that for the rest of my life. So adversity in doses is incredibly important for young people. And and as parents, as we're experiencing the anxiety that this pandemic is creating for us, we got to realize that that's going to translate to our young people in some way. So I want to encourage every parent, every grandparent, if you've got a young person in your home, take time to unplug, turn the news off, put the phone down, go outside, take a walk, bring a pair of binoculars, find a weird bug, you know, do some plant identification, cook out in the backyard, do something to not just, and I wouldn't worry about hiding your anxiety from young people, share it with them and let them know it's real, but help them put it in the right box that it belongs in, and make sure that you unplug with them and help them overcome their adversity. But more importantly, let them find a way to overcome their adversity. A little failure in life is incredibly important to help make sure you have the leadership skills to move forward and when you have future stumbling blocks. Again, thank you all for your time this morning. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate this panel and your insights as well. I've made several notes this morning myself, so I appreciate it very much. And for everyone watching at home, God bless, and thank you so much for your support of the Boy Scouts of America and the Three Fires Council.
Great, thanks, Clint. Yes, what a great hour this has been. And I wish we could continue on, but I'll be respectful of everyone's time. And so just in closing, I want to say thanks to everyone for their participation. Mayor Cherico, Joe Chura, Nikki Anderson, Clint Sharp, your guys' insights. I truly learned quite a bit myself, and and as you said, we're always lifelong learners. I want to thank our scouts, Austin and Katie, for sharing their stories with us. That's great. And once again, I want to acknowledge the support of this webinar from our donors. Let's see, we have Intention, Dealer Inspire, Edwards Jones, and Comcast. I think I'm seeing everyone there on the screen. So thanks again for that. And please consider supporting our youth here by going to our givetfc.org website or texting leadership to the 844-615-4269. I think we need to do this again. It was an awesome experience, and we'll just have to figure out timing and logistics. But I think we've been forced to do something to enhance our lives, and I appreciate everyone's involvement in this. Rich, any last words before we sign off here? I don't know if Rich is going to come in or not, but I guess.
Thanks for having me. I got to head off to another meeting as well. But
yes, you're right, Joe.
Thank you.
Oh,
Go. All
thank
right,
you.
thanks,
And we'll end the broadcast now. So thanks again for everybody for listening in to our broadcast today, and look forward to seeing you again in the future.
All right. Thank you again, everyone.
So we can stop the broadcast now, Kyle.